What's up YouTube, Kristo here, and I've got a video for you. Big one, something I've been looking forward to doing for a very long time. This is my 12 picks for fall 2015. This is going to be a bit different than a regular list. I'm not putting these in any specific order. There's none that are, I'm going to say, that are better than others, although maybe I do prefer some to others or whatever, but they're in no specific order except for the first fragrance, but I'll mention why that is later. Another thing that I'm going to do, kind of a new aspect for this video, for me again at least, is that I plan on reviewing each of these 12 fragrances, hopefully during the fall season for this year. They are all quite diverse, I think. I've got some niche, I've got some designers, I've got some cheapies, I've got some higher end ones. So they're kind of all over the board, a bit of something for everyone. Now, I want to talk quickly before I get into the to my list, fall fragrances and why I'm kind of excited to do this. If you're new to my channel, I lived in the tropics for basically 12 years, and I have not been in Canada, where I'm currently living and where I'm from originally, basically for fall time, in about 13 years. So I have not experienced fall weather, like true fall weather, for a very long time, well over a decade. And I'm really excited because it is actually my favorite time of year. So these are some fragrances that I'm really excited to get to wear this coming fall season, and I think that these will be excellent for that weather. Definitely a few similarities in them. I'll kind of wait till I'm finished to kind of mention them, see if you can pick it up. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about, and the reason I'm picking this first is because this is the only one of these 12 that I have already reviewed. Okay, so I'm not saying this is better or not as good as the others. The only reason I'm putting this first is because I have reviewed it, and I will link the review if you want to check it out, because it is an amazing fragrance. The first pick for fall 2015 is Comme des Garçons 2 Man, the EDT in the brown bottle. And this, if you're not familiar with it, is a very woody, very smoky, very oily smelling fragrance, and oily notes or oily accords are something I've become really obsessed with recently. They're just really interesting, really unique. And what do you ask by oily? I don't necessarily mean perfumer's oil or perfumer's alcohol or anything like that, but I mean like petroleum oil, something that you would smell, like scorched engine oil, or, just like thick, black, viscous petroleum, something like that. I don't know, it's just something I've gotten really interested and intrigued by, and this one has a lot of that in the dry down. I think it's fantastic. This is often regarded as one of the best incense and one of the best woody fragrances ever made. I agree. To some extent, I think this is absolutely phenomenal, especially that you can get it for a little over $100 for 100 ml. So that's Comme des Garçons Man 2 EDT for my first pick. Number 2, this one, definitely bigger budget fragrance, but you can find it very heavily discounted. My second pick is Memoir Man from Amouage. And this is a really interesting one. I picked this up for a very good price, new in box, 100 ml, and I just like, wow, that's so strange, because I actually bought it blindly online, but while it was being shipped to my house, I actually got to try it very unexpectedly, so it was kind of like an interesting surprise, and I was like really nervous, like, oh no, this is gonna smell like crap, and I'm gonna get it and totally regret it. But I was really intrigued by it. The first couple minutes of this are really unique, really strange. They smell very vegetal, almost like wet celery, and then it just turns into like this very woody, very smoky, very typical Amouage fragrance. And my bottle here, I'm quite happy to have this. This is a very old, super heavy metal capped version. After this, there's a plastic cap and then a magnetic cap. So this is an old bottle. Very, very glad to have this. I get just nuclear projection. It lasts all day long on me. Excellent. I think that's going to be great for this coming fall. Next pick. This was something I really, really wanted for a long time and just couldn't test it, and I couldn't find it for a good enough price until recently. I tested it before I bought it and just went, wow, I need to have it. So I started hunting for a bottle. This is Serge Noire from Serge Lutens, and Serge Lutens is just a house that I'm madly in love with, and I've recently been able to try many fragrances of Serge Lutens that I wasn't able to before, and I found so many amazing fragrances, and this was very high on my to try list. It's very, very unique. I sprayed some on this morning just to kind of remind myself for the video, and it's weird because this has a very strong, very prominent clove note, and I would actually say clove is one of my most hated, if not the most hated note in perfume. And Serge Lutens, interestingly, as much as I love them, they're famous as well. Like, basically the signature note for Serge Lutens is clove, and it is screeching in this. It's very sour, very bitter, very acrid, but it's also got this just amazing, just full-on church incense thing going on. Really love it. I have worn this a couple times in the heat, and it was pretty cloying and hard to handle, so I think this is going to be amazing for the fall coming. Next pick. This one, I love this. I've mentioned this in a couple of my videos, and it kind of gets overlooked. The house gets a bit of attention, but for a few other things, and this one is actually the only thing I've tried from the house, so I can't compare it to the rest, but I'm in love with this. This is Phaidon's Grisens, or as it's now referred to as in the new style bottle, Oliban. And this is a very simple, very basic incense with some wood. To me, mostly I get cedar out of it. There's definitely something in there as well, maybe some patchouli, or some vetiver, something a bit earthy, but to me this is just pure smoke and pure woods, and it doesn't get much love. If you look online, if you look on Fragrantica, most people are actually neutral or negative for this, whereas me, I'm the opposite. I love it. I actually wore this yesterday and I really, really enjoyed it. It's just got such an interesting cedar note, like a dry, almost treated cedar wood. Like treated, I mean like, you know, chemically treated or chemically sealed or something. And then it mixes with this really, really simple, basic, but very strong church incense. And I really love this, and I absolutely cannot wait to try it out in the fall, sorry. And I highly recommend this as well. If you're into incense, you know, I think you should check it out. If perhaps you've seen negative reviews or neutral reviews, I think it's definitely worth looking into still. Next, this one is an interesting one because I think this is more, you're going to see by the bottle, that this is probably initially meant to be more of a spring, maybe summer, but to me this is just screams fall. This is Comme des Garçons Tea from the Leaves series, and tea to me is usually a spring note, sometimes summer, but definitely to me it's more of a spring. And this is just like no tea I have ever smelled ever anywhere. It's very dark, it's very heavy in its black tea, which is very, very apparent once you smell it. I've basically described this before as if you were to make tea with like the little diffuser, black tea as well, of course, and you don't empty the tea leaves in the garbage or whatever, and you just leave them on the counter, kind of wet and soggy, and you leave it there for a couple days and it kind of starts fermenting and churning and stuff. And it almost smells rotten to me. It's so weird. I've heard people describe this as smelling pissy, which I actually have to agree to an extent. As off-putting as that sounds, there is a very sharp, like, acid kind of thing in the opening. It's really weird, but if you're a tea lover and you want to smell like strangely animalic and, you know, dirty and fermenting, this is an absolute must try. There is no tea like this out there anywhere. And because of the kind of strong, heavy, dark, animalic feeling to this, I highly, highly recommend this for the fall. Next, this is actually a very new purchase. I have to admit I was a little bit disappointed with it, but that's more about the performance, not actually the fragrance itself. This is Werewolf Lumberjack from Smellbent. And I've kind of had a spotty past with Smellbent. The first 3 fragrances that I tried and bought from them, I loved. And then I blind bought 2 more. All of my Smellbent buys have been blind. I bought 2 more. Neither of them were my taste. And then I got this, and I'm definitely leaning more towards good than bad. The reason is because the longevity is so minimal, but the smell of this is awesome. This is another one I sprayed this morning just to kind of familiarize myself with it. It basically smells like somebody with a dirty, sweaty arse that has sat in like pine needles and wood shavings. So you can imagine someone doing like, I don't know, a naked marathon and then just plopping down into this pile of wood shavings. And if you were to take a whiff of their backside, that's pretty much what this smells like to me. It's really animalic in the opening. The first kind of maybe 20-30 minutes, it is actually like a very dirty kind of barnyard animalic. Really unique, really strange, and I think the reason it is tolerable is because of the really nice kind of coniferous notes in there. There's pine needles as well. There's definitely kind of a sawdusty feeling. I just really wish it lasted longer. It smells so good, and I could actually see this being really good for formal wear because it is so kind of macho and masculine, and it is classy in kind of a weird, old-fashioned, old man kind of way. I really like this. Maybe I'll get better performance in the cooler weather. I hope so. I really like it. It's a great price as well. $50 for 50 mil. Okay, next one. This one's a bit obscure. It's actually regarded as like one of the ultimate niche discontinued gems. It's definitely not on most people's radar, but if you know me and you know I love weird, you know I love discontinued things, this one's right up my alley. This is Homage from Diptyque. This is from the 34 series. You can see my dusty cap there. And it's got the standard magnetic cap. This is, again, it's got a lot of sawdust, I find, a very sawdusty feeling. It's got a very strong ambroxan note in it. Weird notes as well. There's tangerine as well as rose absolute, and I definitely get a lot of tangerine. The rose, I do get it, but I wish I got more because it is really beautiful. So basically, for the most part, I kind of get dry, dusty, sawdusty tangerines, which, as weird as it sounds, is actually pretty cool. This is, I don't know actually if this is discontinued. I've heard it's actually from a limited series or a limited release that didn't fare very well. Even though it was a limited edition, it didn't fare well with Diptyque fans because this is so unlike Diptyque that people didn't like it. So it ended up just sitting on shelves, and then they pulled it off after, you know, the limited release had been around for how long. I don't know if that's true. I've heard that. There's really not a lot of information on this online. I can actually, you know what? I'm going to make you watch my review so you can pick up that little tidbit there, that little tip. But anyways, Diptyque Homage, super rare. If you can find it, this is really interesting, really unique, and it's going to be excellent for the autumn. Next, this one was on my to-buy list for pretty much longer than anything I've ever had that I've actually bought. Beautiful, I love it. I had like a 10 or 8 ml decant of this, and I wore it in just a couple months, which is very, very short for me. This is L'Artisan's Volure de Roses, and it's like a lot of L'Artisan fragrances. It's very simple, it's very light and transparent, and it smells amazing. I'm a huge L'Artisan fan. I would probably put this up in my top 3 from that house. Actually, I would say definitely in my top 3. Basically, from this, what you're getting is a lot of patchouli, like really screechy, fuzzy, abrasive patchouli that gets very woody and smoky as it progresses. And then on top of that, you get a little bit of rose and a little bit of plum. The plum is nice because it kind of makes the screeching patchouli a little bit more tolerable. If you're not a patchouli fan, of course. I love my patchouli, and this is one of my favorites. Next, this one, I love this. I actually bought this very soon before I left Indonesia, and I'm really glad I got it. This is another Comme des Garçons fragrance. Comme des Garçons, I love the house. I think they do amazing fragrances, especially with incense. And this is from the incense line. This is Kyoto. Now, I took this over Avignon because to me, Avignon is amazing, but I find it to be just like a really clear cut and paste church incense. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I love it. I think Avignon is one of the best there is, but I think Kyoto just has so much more substance to it. This is also very sour and bitter in the opening. Apparently there's coffee in this, and I can kind of see that, although it's definitely not a traditional coffee note. It's more of kind of like tea I mentioned, more like kind of coffee grounds that have been setting for a long time and are kind of, you know, like, yeah, fermenting and starting to go off and stuff. It's very earthy, very, very smoky as well. The first couple minutes of this are pretty strange. If you can get through them, the dried on this is beautiful, just really dark, heavy incense. And I think that's what makes it stand out for me so much. The other incenses, I think, honestly, 2 of the 5 I can live without. Avignon I love, and Zagorsk I like, but not quite enough to pick up. And between this and Avignon, this is just so much more unique. I have never smelled an incense quite like this before, which is why it really stands out and why I'm so excited to wear it for fall. Okay, next one, number 10, by the way. I've lost track, but we're at number 10 here. This one, you already see it. Don't know if you can identify it yet though, but this one I actually predicted a couple years ago, before it was released, right before it was released, I predicted it was going to become like a huge, you know, hype sensation, a huge phenomenon in the fragrance community, and it never really took off. It didn't get much attention. It seemed to hit discounters really quickly, like in drugstore cutout bins and stuff, and maybe for the best, because I bought this bottle for next to nothing. This is DSquared2 Potion. This is the EDT I have here. There is also an EDP formula, but this is the EDT here. I was so excited to try this. I love Rocky Mountain Wood. The other versions of He Wood, I'm honestly not that big on. but love Rocky Mountain Wood, and kind of while I was really in love with it, at the point where I was in most love with it, they announced they were going to release this, and I couldn't wait. The notes sounded amazing. I really liked DSquared, and I had nothing but high expectations. But for some reason, I don't know why, this never really made it onto the market in Indonesia, and even still today, it's really hard to find there. And it sells for quite a lot because it is so hard to get. Came to Canada within a couple months. I found it at Winners, basically the Canadian version, TJ Maxx or Marshalls, and it was like $15 for 50 mil. So I bought it on the spot. I had tried it before that, to be fair, and I loved it. And yeah, I'm so glad I got it. Very simple to me. I find this, again, it's got a very sawdusty feeling to it, but it's quite sweet. It smells kind of, I put this on as well this morning because I hadn't worn it in a while, and it reminded me strangely of a vanilla wafer that had sawdust in it. And I've been quite intrigued by this because I find it to be so light and actually transparent for what you think the notes would be, with all the woods and spices in it. And I'm really interested to wear this in the fall. The Potion Royal Black, I'm in love with it. I think it's amazing. That is definitely a winter frag. This one though, I think this is going to be perfect for the fall, so I'm quite excited to try this. Next, this one here, it has been renamed. It has kind of been discontinued. I'll probably get into that more in the review. From the house of Bond Number 9, a lot of people really bash Bond Number 9, and I liked them when I first tried them. A lot of things I did find were really not worth the price tag, and then I tried more and more, and there are definitely fragrances from this house that I really love, but for the most part, I think the house I can completely do without. This one though, I love it, and I will have a bottle of this, hopefully forever, in my collection. This is the Silver Factory from the Andy Warhol line. Now, as the story goes, supposedly Andy Warhol, the Andy Warhol Foundation, I should say, stopped their collaboration with Bond Number 9. So it has been renamed. It is simply just called Silver now, and it has just a silver bottle. This is great though. I love Andy Warhol. I'm a huge fan of his work, so I'm really happy to have this one. This is actually, the funny thing with this is this gets highly regarded as, one of the best incenses, just pure incense. But to me, when I got the bottle in the mail, it had been a really long time since I had smelled it, and I knew they were phasing it out, and I found a bottle for a good enough price. I said, I have to get it. It's now or never, basically. And I sprayed it, remembering it as being pure incense. And I was just totally blown away, because to me this is just pure resins. Well, okay, almost all pure resins with, a few other little things in the background. There's definitely some citrus in here, and there is incense, but I was quite surprised by how much this is just so resinous. Apparently just pure amber and resins, but I love it. I think this is great. I can't wait to wear this. It's very balmy, very just warm, and just kind of encloses you and just makes you feel all warm and cozy. I really love it. I think this is going to be amazing for the fall. So that's another pick. Silver Factory from Bond Number 9. And the last one, I have to kind of admit now, I did kind of save this for the last for a bit of a reason. But I'm not saying it's better than the others or anything. It's not my number one. I just have a really special place in my heart for this. This is Narciso Rodriguez for him. And I was very lucky to get the limited edition silver bottle. This is exactly the same fragrance, just with completely different colored packaging. And the cap on this weighs about 2 pounds. It's solid metal. The bottle itself inside is a reflective silver, and the box comes with a silver metallic sleeve that the box slips into. Other than that, though, it's exactly the same. I think this looks stunning. Beautiful presentation. I think one of the best designer presentations ever. The fragrance itself, I've talked about this a lot. I haven't actually reviewed it, but I will link my line overview where I compare this with the other two editions from Narciso Rodriguez for him. It's just so beautiful. It starts out with what a lot of people say, and I agree with, smells like wet cement or fermenting cucumbers. But basically what it is kind of a mishmash of violet leaf with patchouli, musk, amber, and they bring out this just beautiful, beautiful fragrance. I've described this, and I've heard other people describe it as like a foggy midnight in a cemetery on Halloween. It's just so atmospheric. It's so dreary and gray, almost even depressing, as kind of off-putting as that sounds. But I don't know, I just find it to be very, just embodies melancholy in a fragrance, but it's just strangely beautiful. It's meant to be a throwback to the vintage men's fougères, and it's just totally done to perfection. Francis Courdienne is the perfumer on this, so I really love this one, and I am really excited to wear this in the fall. So there you go. There's my 12 recommendations for fall 2012. I plan on reviewing all of these other than the CdG Tea Man, which I've already reviewed, but stay tuned and check those out. And as I gradually review them, I will link them to the respective fragrance in my video here. So, what are you going to be wearing this fall? What are your top picks? What are your top notes and accords? By the way, did you pick it up? I'm not going to mention, I'll see what it was. There was something that kept coming up. I'm going to see if you can spot it. Comment down below. Let me know what you're going to be wearing. What are your thoughts on fall fragrances and the autumn in general? Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.